has about a 70% submission rate. So he's not just winning these titles, he's winning them in dominant fashion. All have been great matches. He's given Tainan some of his best matches of his career.
Dalpra, Pedro, Maia, and Danny, thank you for doing your homework, because the amount. The interesting thing about watching Tainan is there's this kind of unspoken, well, not really unspoken, a lot of people speak about it, but this unspoken feeling in the room that Tainan can't be beat, right? That is kind of the, always the overlying factor when Tainan is on.
It'd be very interesting to see just what kind of submissions he's going to bring to the table here at the Crown.
What's interesting about this, we've got Shanji Ribeiro in Pedro Maia's corner, and we see Tainan using a very Shanji-esque style that can be used for triangles. He can, of course, also move to the back. He can attack sweeps. He can go.
So we'll see if he tries to attack that triangle again, Kendall. Could be interesting.
Yeah, it's fun to watch the evolution of an athlete's game like that, because you're right, we did see that with Jan, and using it again on one of Jan's teammates, interestingly enough. And so it looks like Pedro was able to have the wherewithal to regain his posture, come back into a better, stronger passing position, and out of immediate danger. It's very nice work from Pedro. It's hard to judge just how difficult that is when you're watching from the outside, but when you're in deep waters like that, of someone creating such strong angles and such strong position, that is a big deal to re-even out the match this way.
Tainan now into his X guard, one of his strongest sweeping positions. Gets the leg up on his shoulder. Looks like he's reaching for the far pant grip. Pedro doing a good job trying to control that right sleeve of Tainan to make it more difficult to come up if he were to put Pedro's hips on the mat.
Yeah, really nice sweeping motion used by Tainan to bring that foot onto the shoulder. And with that foot onto the shoulder and his left hand onto the lapel, really difficult for Pedro to put weight in his right leg, which is typically what you would want to do in this position, is put weight back onto that leg so that you're not as easily elevated this way. But again, very difficult to do because Tainan's also using his right leg to monitor the other leg of Pedro to keep him off balance, and uses that to come up on top, but does not actually come up on top into a sweeping position as Pedro comes back up on top quickly.
Beautiful.
On the outside, to know that that's a big deal mentally for athletes, to not have that score go on the board, to regain your position, and to feel like, no, I'm still in this, I did not give that spot up. And for the person who was on the attack in that scenario, it can be quite frustrating, right? Because you're like, wait, I thought I was going to score, and now we're here back in the same position again, and okay, I got to try off attacks once again.
Yeah, he's right back into those leg entanglements, trying to get to that X guard, where he's swept almost everyone he's competed against. Pedro, like we talked about earlier, has just had such an impressive year, given Tainan some amazing matches. Had some of the best submissions we've seen so far in 2023. He's always a really, really exciting competitor to watch.
Yeah, now we're kind of back to where the match started, right? Tainan's closed guard. So it'll be interesting to see if he opts to go back towards that side guard that he was working on before, or if he decides to stay open, because his feet are not necessarily keeping the guard locked and insisting on that position, but now he switches back, and Pedro Maia with an interesting approach to this. He's kind of staying hot, or sometimes it's a position that athletes go to just due to feeling like they are exposed and they don't want to posture up and open themselves up. But as I say that, as he postures up, Tainan with a beautiful sweep comes right up on top here.
Timing on that was incredible.
Almost looked for a second like Pedro was gonna escape that sweep once again, but he wasn't quite able to escape the sweep. The 2 points did go on the board, but now he has really done a great job at avoiding the big pressure from Tainan Dalpra by bringing the foot all the way up to his shoulder. But Tainan kind of doing his own footwork there by bringing.
That was interesting. Bringing his knee inside the arm.
Yeah, he brought his knee up and did like a, I don't want to even call it a knee cut because the knee was just in such a precarious position, but he did cut his knee back into the armpit of Pedro. But Pedro, look, he kept that grip. I mean, he still has his hand underneath the leg of Tainan Dalpra, and if Tainan can't sprawl his left leg back, then he's still in danger.
Great job by Pedro getting out of the half guard. That's usually a position that's pretty dominant for the person on top. Pedro looked like he was almost flat, but he recovered his knee shield, created some space. Now he's got both his legs back in front of Tainan.
Yeah, it's not often we see Tainan get. And with 320 on the board, I mean, this match could really still go either way. The advantage that Tainan has does make a bit of a difference, though, because if Pedro were to come up on top, he is still down by that one advantage. So now being on the feet, if once they're on the feet for 3 seconds, just so everybody at home knows, even if that single leg had
Match 2-0. This is the Crown's middleweight semifinal. Tainan scoring his 2 points with a sweep. He's been playing a lot of guard in this match so far. And he pulls again.
Wow, big jumping motion there from Pedro. Maia almost floated over the guard of Tainan, but Tainan was able to get his leg back inside in time to keep Pedro between his legs and to avoid one of those floating passes. It's oftentimes something we see athletes do during a guard pull. If you can time the hip switch just right as they pull, people will float over the legs and land right in side control sometimes already in a passing position. But Tainan experienced with that, of course, and able to bring himself not just back into the guard, but right back into this X guard that he loves.
Yeah, what a great entry that was, lifting Pedro.
Your side leg of Pedro, and then his left leg is monitoring the far side. But as I say that, it brings that left leg back into a single leg X position rather than an X guard. And now that left foot does the job of monitoring the hip. So that is the foot that keeps Pedro from coming closer to him, closing the distance, and starting to potentially move into passing positions and keep Tainan on his back. As long as Tainan keeps his left foot on the hip like that, and also now he's using that right leg to extend, it keeps Pedro's weight in his left side so that it's easy for Tainan to come up, because now Pedro's right leg is very light.
That's such a great point, because I feel like that's what makes Tainan's single leg X guard so much different from some of the other competitors, is he's able to manage the distance and not let his opponents close the distance, drop their knee on his midline, and start to peel the feet off. Tainan just does such a great job, like you said, with that left foot, keeping it on the hip, keeping his partner away, and creating some space for him to just stand up and get the sweep.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a big distinguishing factor, because if your opponent can close the space, they can really do some damage and put the right knee on the midline, like you said. But Pedro, man, is really impressive here. I mean, Tainan has had some good near sweep attempts, but Pedro has come back up on top. He's been able to keep enough tension in his right leg, between his right leg and Tainan, to not allow Tainan to come up. And even threatening these big passing explosions, like that quick look at a back step with about 35 seconds left, just being able to stay on top is not going to be enough to win, because he can't put anything on the board as long as his right leg is stuck in this X guard, especially now that Tainan has moved the leg up to the shoulder.
Coming up on 20 seconds left in this middleweight semifinal here at the Crown. Tainan Dalpra up 2 points over Pedro Maia. And it looks like Tainan's going to advance in this middleweight Crown division.
Yeah, Tainan switched over to 50-50, which, especially at the end of the match, when there are a lot of points on the board, or when there's a lead on the board, typically means that an athlete's looking to ride out that win. And we see Tainan.
And your winner
Takes the victory here at
is
the Crown.
Tainan Dalpra.
Tainan Dalpra is our first final.